Logic needs to be part of education, teacher training, things like that. It's a cultural failure that most teachers do not know basic logic. Not their fault, of course. I wasn't born with it. No one's born with it. It's something we got to learn. It's something we got to be taught. Something we got to be taught is important, and taught like the real stuff about it, not have it misrepresented as it is. So more in the blame, the culprits are more some, not all, some philosophers, modern ones, not the real philosophers, because philosophy is a love of wisdom. It's a commitment to wisdom, a commitment to truth. Some of this modern stuff is fake philosophy, like fake news, fake whatever. Should be in the educational system. The teacher training thing, partly there's a failure too, because it's a responsibility of those people to know better. Some philosophers, some people in the educational training departments, to some extent, some teachers in schools and administration, but we have so much time. We don't know what we don't know. There are unknown unknowns. So, where more, as I say, the real blame needs to be placed is with some people who should know better. It's their job to know better. So, major fail, but whatever the cause, it's still a failure of the educational system and the culture to do so. Again, you can't blame a particular teacher or school. Some people don't know what they don't know. They have to be trained in that way, trained in some ways. I had to also, but it should have logic. That is important. Teaching is about conveying information, communication, developing a student mind. How the hell can you do that without, really well, without knowing logic? Not possible. If you know some basic logic, you're going to know knowledge should be connected to reality. It is an awareness of reality. That is knowledge. If you got words alone, that's not knowledge. To have a concept, you need like a word. And that puts something in a code so you can relate it to others. That's where reasoning comes into play. When we can have thoughts like that, not just identify something, but have a thought. We need to have things that we can relate. That requires a language, which is a coded way of having conceptual thought and putting things together. Grammar is like an aspect of logic. But on a basic level, knowledge is an awareness of reality. If you don't got things, y'all leave as words, it ain't knowledge, it's fake education. That's just a basic idea of logic and epistemology that needs to be brought into play. And logic, the fundamental stuff, it ain't just like symbolic logic crap. We need to know about how to really form concepts, know concept formation. I mean, after all, what the heck are people trying to do in education? We're trying to teach and learn ideas, concepts, things on the conceptual level. Everyone can perceive. We don't need training in that. It's obvious. A dog is a dog and stuff like that. Plenty of animals, other animals do that too. We are animals. We got a consciousness. We have this other aspect to it, reason. We need to train it with logic. We should know concept formation. How do we form the concept of projectile in physics? Or rhetorical device in literature, or integral in calculus, or proof in geometry, or romantic literature in literature, whatever the case may be. How do we really form a concept? How do we know when a student has it? How do we teach it? What do we have to present? That is important. That should be taught. Every teacher should know that. And definition. What's the essence of something? What makes it what it is? Got to talk about fundamentals. And like, what is it to be an acid or a base? What's the essential thing about it? Instead of blobbing on a bunch of information, we get a bunch of information, we organize it, we get the one thing that explains the most, and that's going to help us see what a definition is. What's the essence of the thing? What is it to be an acid or a base or an integral or a geometric proof or parallelism in geometry, or parallelism in grammar. We need explanation. Heck, I mean, what are we doing in school explaining things? Teachers should be aware of how to explain things well. It's like in some places, as I say, it's malpractice that is not done. Again, you got to look at a 5 whys analysis. What's the root cause of this? And not run off and blame any particular person. But that should be, it's still a failure of our educational system, even if, there's only certain people who are at fault. We got to explain things in education. That's the point. Get something, develop it from what we know. Make it clear. Why is this? Give a reason for it. Theories are explanations. We teach theories in different things. Theory in history, theory in English, theory of language, theory in science, gravitational theory, evolutionary theory, whatever. What is a theory? It's an explanation. We should know that. How do you explain things well? What are the characteristics of a good explanation? Classification. That should be taught. Okay, these are much more important than that, like symbolic logic crud, which is worthless. I never use that. Whoever uses that, it might be a cute little game to like occupy your time, but that's not the point of an education. We should be there to learn really how to make the most of our reasoning and thinking, because that's so much a part of life, human life. It's so essential to our experience of being human, being true to our nature, dealing with other people, dealing with the world, being effective, having a good life. It should not be neglected. This needs to be developed more. It's one thing that does not develop kind of automatically is our heart grows, our bones grow, we perceive some things like that. We can learn some language to some extent automatically just by being with people and talking, being social. But look at history, look at modern times. Unfortunately, reasoning does not develop automatically. It needs to be trained. We need some classification too. What's more abstract? What's less? How do things fit together? Or if we had this, we could do better like in fitness. People focus on sports or exercise, but movement is a broader concept. Without grasping movement, there's a lot of mistakes and injuries and failures in fitness that could otherwise be prevented or minimized. So in human movement, we have all kinds of different things. That movement encompasses sports or exercise, but it's much broader. What's a movement we need? Breathing. Is there a sport of breathing? No. Do we have to breathe in sports? Yes. Does how effectively and efficiently we breathe matter? Yes. Does it matter for how we sleep? Yes. To do better at sports, we've got to look at the broader concept or class of human physical movement to see how to do well. For example, we've got to classify a lot of things, and that comes up in this. Concept formation, definition, classification, they go together. Projectile in physics. How does it relate to how's it different from other things? How are all these things projectiles in the concept? How do we define that? And what do we differentiate them from to see what a projectile is? Like a rock we throw versus a rock we drop. Why is one a projectile and the other not? What about an arrow that we shoot versus a missile that goes off? Why is one a projectile but the other's not? We need to classify, define, no concept formation. These things, then some argument analysis, how to trace lines of reasoning. There are things that every teacher should know the educational establishment needs to improve. That needs to be done. Again, not symbolic logic junk, not much deduction. That's kind of like obvious. Besides, if you get this wrong, your deduction's a fail. You're going to apply some generalization to something where it doesn't apply. We've got to get this stuff, get real, get our minds connected to reality first. Then one can learn some deduction, but most people don't got to learn much of it. It's kind of already somewhat instituted into the culture, and one can practice it a little bit more. But we got to learn reasoning first. Some basic stuff. This is a little more advanced, but it can be done as we're going still, even in second grade. What's an example? You know, you don't got to be like super advanced to figure that out. Or it could be done on a little level, then we build up, have it more and more complex as you go through school. But there's one thing that would radically help education. We want a revolution, or we want to really improve it. It's not a matter of putting things on the internet or whatever, or multimedia, doing the same poor thing in a more widespread, fancy way with electrons. It's getting into what's going on here. That's the root. Education is what's going on inside. Doesn't take fancy technology. It's something that's been around for thousands of years, will stay the same. It's this in here, this low-tech thing that is fundamental to any of the high-tech stuff. So that's what we need to do, please, with ourselves, with our schools, with our teachers, with teacher training. Let's please make it more logical in this sense. Logic, properly speaking, is the art of connecting our concepts to the reality, to the evidence of the senses. As Aristotle pointed out, as Galileo learned from Aristotle, it's not running little fancy circles in our head, being lost in the clouds. It's connecting oneself to reality, and then having our concepts after that be non-contradictory and be developed well. So we can think well, be real, know what the truth is, and then we'll be more successful in life, clearly. If we're dealing with the truth and good values and things and what's really out there, we're going to get along better, and we're going to live better and have a happier life. So let's do more of that, please. If you want more training in it, you got some questions, please get in touch. I'd love to help teachers in schools, business professionals, learn thinking skills, be better at logic, help students. I got classes in it. I've written up a lot of stuff in different areas. So please, and I'll put some recommendations in the show description of some books you can look at on your own too. So let's be better rational animals. Peace.